So you've had your first month of your client's podcast. Hopefully it's going really well. Now it's time to go ahead and submit your first report for your downloads. Most of our shows will be through Megaphone, so I'm going to show you Megaphone. If it happens to be on another host site, analytics will be fairly similar. So if it becomes difficult to navigate, I would just do some YouTube research. I'm sure somebody will have a walkthrough on analytics. Generally, they're pretty user-friendly. YouTube can be a little tricky at times depending on how your client's channel is set up. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through both. You're going to be doing report for both the podcast and for the YouTube channel if your client has one. So I will go ahead and share my screen. So this is a Megaphone. You're going to go to just log into Megaphone, go to your homepage. You'll want to go to over here to the left, go to analytics. And then you're going to you're going to do all networks, obviously, just keep it there. You're going to go down here and you're going to select the show that you're doing your reporting for. So I'm just going to do it for one of my older clients. There. And then what you want to do is you want to pay attention to this date range. I do these at the end of the calendar month. So if your podcast launched, in the middle of the month, then I would do a month and a half before you do your first report. So just do it at the end of the month. It's just an easier metric to track. So I'm just going to pretend like it's the end of the month. And you're going to do 3 different things. You're going to go back to your launch date. So the longer your show has been running, the further you have to go back. I'm just going to pretend like her show launched in November of 23. So I'm going to hit, the first of the month. She may have launched, somewhere in here, but it's obviously not going to give you numbers before it actually was airing. So you're going to select that, and then you're going to go to the current date. So the calendar on the left is the start date. The calendar on the right is the end date of your range. You're going to select that. You're going to hit apply. It's going to calculate everything. This is going to be your complete downloads since your podcast launched. Technically, since your trailer was uploaded and went live. There usually won't be very many downloads during that period. So it's going to give you 3 different numbers here. Since Megaphone, and this is specific to Megaphone and Spotify are owned by the same company. So they have separate metrics for Spotify. So it gets a little bit in the weeds. Most of our clients don't really care the difference between iTunes and Spotify. Some do. So I'm just going to give you this information just in case they are concerned about specific player apps. So total delivered and total downloads are the difference here. You can kind of see is streams. Streams means Spotify. So any listens that happen through Spotify is considered a stream. The total downloads will be the combination of all the other platforms and Spotify. So this right here, total downloads, is your total number. So this, we're pretending that she launched November 1st, and that today's the end of July. This is your total downloads for the life of the podcast. So that's your lifetime downloads. So I go ahead and copy that number. I go into Basecamp. I'll go to Whiny Palooza. Docs and files. Once you get in docs and files, there should be a folder called reporting. And then you're going to have, depending on how far along you are, you're going to have a folder for each season. So typically we'll do a season is launch date to 1 year later for launch date. Reporting you can do by year. So just categorize the folders by year. So this is this year's, I'm going to go ahead and make a new document. What I actually will usually do is I take one of these previous ones and then I copy, but for your purposes, you wouldn't have this in place. Essentially you want lifetime downloads, you want total downloads. Sorry, these are different than what I usually do. So we're going to go back a little bit here. let's go to September. So this is how I like to report here. So you've got Megaphone, and then you've got your lifetime downloads, which is that number we just pulled. And then you've got your 2023 downloads, which this is 2024 as of this video. So that would be 2024 downloads. And then the month that you're reporting. So the reporting is going to be the same. You just set the date range to the different ones. So the first one is the start date's going to be the month that your podcast launched. The end date is up to the current day that you're doing the reporting on. You're going to do your annual report, your numbers for the annual downloads. You're going to go all the way back to January. So I go January 1st, and then the end date is whatever the date you're doing the report on. Apply that, run your numbers, get your total downloads, and then you're going to do a monthly report. So you're going to go to the beginning of the month that you're reporting in. So June 1st, and then all the way through the end of the month. So we're pretending that the 25th is the end of the month. Then you apply. So that is your total downloads for the month of June. You're going to calculate those numbers, make sure it's only set for your podcast. Make sure you've got the beginning date and the end date correct. Make sure you hit apply each time you do these numbers. The total here is going to be this middle one because that includes both all the other platforms and Spotify. So you're going to go ahead and report those numbers as your Megaphone numbers. You're going to have your lifetime, which is from the beginning of the podcast, the annual, just for that calendar year, and then the monthly, which is for the month that you're doing your downloads in. I like to, it'll calculate this. It'll give you if your numbers were up or down. I like to include this. It kind of gives people, your client, an idea of if they, are getting more followers or less, or if a particular episode might have done really well. So you're gonna put those numbers in there. So you have that. That's kind of the at a glance snapshot of what your reporting is going to be here. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to scroll down here. And you certainly can use any of these graphics they give you. If somebody likes charts and graphs, whatever. When you're on, technically it'll calculate everything, but when you're doing your annual report, like not the annual report, the numbers for the whole lifetime of the podcast, you're going to set the date there and you're going to get your calculations like I showed you before. The next thing you want to do is go down to episode performance by downloads. You're going to go to episode report. You can either, actually, I wonder if okay, so there's two different ways you can do that. I'm not sure if the other way works, but you're going to go pick your podcast. It unfortunately resets when you do that. Going to click on your podcast. You're going to select all episodes and then hit select. You're going to select your date range, whatever it was. We'll pretend November was the beginning of the podcast. You're going to hit apply. You're going to run report. And then it's going to populate all that. Well, it's not doing it right now, but it's taking a little while. It's going to give you all the downloads for everything. There we go. For the lifetime of the podcast. And you can see what your top performing episode is. So like this one is obviously something we ran ads to because it's significantly more than any other one. Most of her episodes are like 300 to 400 downloads. So you can kind of figure that she has around 300 subscribers. It's interesting information. You're certainly welcome to use it however you like, but what you want to do with this is hit the export button. And it's going to download a spreadsheet that will list the total number of downloads for each episode. It's going to be for the whole lifetime of the podcast. You can see, most of the downloads will happen when the podcast goes live, but people go back and listen to episodes that have already aired. So what you're going to do now is go to your folder on your computer, wherever your downloads go. And then it's going to show this top episode report. I would go ahead and rename that. So I would just say Whiny episode report, Megaphone. and then June 2024. And then you're going to upload that to Basecamp. So you will have that here. You can see where I uploaded it here. So you have your stats just at a glance. You've got your episode report for Megaphone. Again, I would label this as Megaphone, and that will be the reporting for Megaphone. YouTube is a little different. So you should have access to your client's YouTube when it was created, whether they already had it or you created it just for their podcast. You're going to go ahead and make sure that you have access to it and that your editor has access to it. So once you log in to the YouTube channel, you're going to go up to the client's icon, whatever their the Google account is. You're going to go down to YouTube Studio. YouTube Studio is where all the analytics live. They'll have some stuff at a glance on the dashboard. What you want to do is go over to the left and go to this kind of bar graph, and it'll say analytics. Then you can go here. This will automatically give you stats for the last 28 days, which is helpful. But what we want to do is, again, just like in Megaphone, you want to go ahead and customize your timeline. So this one is actually pretty helpful. The date ranges that you can just kind of preload. You can do, I want analytics for the year of 2024, so January 1st through today. It's going to give you this. Views is the one you want to put in there. So you're going to go ahead and copy that number, or I don't think it'll let you copy it, but you can type that in. So the same thing on here, you're going to go down to lifetime views. You're going to plug that number there. You can also go to subscribers. So it's going to tell you how many you gained in the year. I wouldn't worry about that. Where is the subscriber data? Should tell you where your total subscribers are. All right, I will go and find that later. So you're going to put the views for the year of 2024, which is when I'm doing this video. Again, you can do a quick click for July. It's going to give you those numbers as well. And then for the lifetime one, you're going to want to, you can either go to lifetime. If the channel is specifically dedicated just to the podcast, then it makes reporting really, really easy. So lifetime will give you what your subscriber numbers are. So you've got 2.2 thousand subscribers. You can put these things in. So these are your lifetime numbers of the channel. Then if your client cares about subscribers, then you can kind of go off that number and say, okay, I gained 75 this month, or sorry, this year. What did we gain in July? We gained 11 in July. So you can get a little more detailed with your reporting if you like. I'm not going to get into detail on this because it probably isn't applicable to most YouTube channels. But if your client has a YouTube channel where they post other content besides their podcasts, or they had content on their channel before they started doing the podcast, then that's where you really want to pay attention over here. You're not going to do lifetime of the channel because that incorporates views from things outside of the podcast. That in that case, you would want to do custom. So you would want to go from the date that your podcast started to the current date. You would also need to filter the content by episode. Now, that's where I'm not going to get into it. If you do find that that's the case, come to me and I will get you additional information on how to do that kind of reporting, because it's a little trickier. Anyway, so once you've put those numbers in, again, you're going to give them subscriber number, lifetime views, the calendar year views, and the month views. You're going to post those there, and then you're also going to do a spreadsheet for the episodes. So you're going to go to advanced mode, and then you're going to select your date range. So I'm going to do lifetime, and then you're going to go up here to the export current view. And so that is going to give you another Google Sheet that will have all of your episode information. And then you're going to go to your downloads. Or actually, it takes a little while for it to generate. Um, okay, I think it's a pop-up block. So now it'll let you know. Oh, it didn't save it. You got to catch it as it happens. So now I got to figure out where it went. So I'm just going to do this again, export current view. And then you just kind of watch and wait for your notification to say that it's generated that sheet. And then you're going to click on it. I'm sure there's a better way to, there we go. I'm sure there's a way for you to find it. I don't know where to find it. I just wait for it to pop up. So anyway, this is your spreadsheet with all your stats for everything. So you got views, and it even gives you more details of like how many hours people watched of your videos, all that stuff. So there's some data in here that most of your clients aren't really going to care about, but it's there for them to use. Same thing, just rename this like you did the other sheet, and then add, the date that you ran the report, post it in here. And then you'll have this posted in Basecamp for reporting. You have access to it, your client has access to it. The next thing that you need to do is draft an email to your client. It should just go with your weekly check-in. So you're going to do this, at the end of the month or the first check-in of the month. You're going to just take this information, paste it into the email, and then attach the two spreadsheets. Make sure that they're labeled. And that is how you do your monthly reporting for your show. In the same fashion, you're going to do a year-end report, just to kind of go over more specific things. So you'll kind of want to discuss with your client what is important to them. You can kind of look for trends to see if certain episodes got more downloads, things like that. If you did any ads, to see if anything had any significant impact. So you may want to work on a customized year-end report once you finished your calendar year or your season, depending on how you want to categorize things. So this is the reporting. Make sure you post it to Basecamp. Make sure you send that to your client in your check-in. And we will see you in the next video.